Hello, Virgo. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully, the end of the week is off to a good start here for everybody. I had some really kind of wild and amazing dreams last night. Already kind of know what the focus is for your reading. A lot of times I have to wait for the cards to come through, but there was a lot of energy surrounding clocks, timelines, for many of you, deadlines. So we're going to be looking today at where you are, how you stand in relation to all of these. And a little Apollo wanted to come up and say hello at the beginning, so I just thought I'd bring him up here. All right, buddy, we're going to get started. So how's everyone doing? Happy New Year to all of you, since this is the first reading that I've been doing in the new year, even though I have the January ones up right now. Good to see everybody. I hope you're well. And I'm glad you're taking some time out of your schedule today to look and see what's coming through. So if you just joined, welcome. This is for the sign of Virgo, and this can be used for Sun, Rising, Moon, Venus, really any aspect of your chart that you happen to know. I tend to focus more on Sun, Rising, and Moon here. So anyway, it can be used for any aspect of your chart, and you can also cross-watch and take a look and see what's going on with someone that you love in your life as well, okay? The way that this works is I begin with channeled information, and that's basically what comes to me in either meditation, sometimes also dreams. Today it was specifically dreams. I woke up at like 5 in the morning with a lot of clarity on what we needed to talk about today. So we'll start off with that psychic download, then we'll get into the cards. I already know which deck. Sometimes I'll put it out there for a vote, but because I was looking at the mechanics of a clock, there's one deck in particular that works with that, and that's going to be the Steampunk. I grabbed the wrong one, but I'll get that when it's time to read. It's a beautiful deck. I'm featuring some of it in the channel messages, okay? There's a lot more that will come through for today, but we'll talk more about that as we kind of move through the reading. If you're new here, I'd love for you to like and subscribe. It's a great way to let the channel grow. I do kind of change the start times depending on where I'm at. Like, I want to give myself enough prep time. This is a change in the new year. So if I feel like I need 5 or 10 more minutes to prepare for a reading, I'm going to do that, because part of like today's reading is about the relativity of time. Sometimes there's this illusion that we have to have something done by a certain time. I'd rather come through and have like high quality readings than be here exactly at 9 and be rushed. So that's one reason that you want to make sure you've got that bell icon clicked and that you are subscribed, so that, if I'm 5 or 10 minutes early or 5 or 10 minutes past the hour, you'll be able to catch the reading. You can also join me across social media. I always put a recap or a reminder of what's been read for that day, as well as upcoming news and announcements. I also put my one-card readings across all of the major social media networks as well. A quick reminder, I finally got one of the imposters off TikTok, but it's kind of like whack-a-mole. One keeps popping up here and there. So remember, I don't offer private readings. I haven't for some time. If anyone offers you one, they are an imposter. If someone messages you and says, I've been meaning to reach out to you, they're an imposter. If someone adds you as a friend, they're an imposter. If someone says this is a special account, that's fake too. All right? All of the official ones are right here. I say that as often as I can so that nobody gets taken advantage of. The only way to show support is right here through one of the live readings. You can see me in real time and you know it's real. So thank you to all that want to show support. You can do that with a super sticker, super chat, and also through a membership. All right, let's get started, folks. We're going to begin with the channel messages. And again, beautiful messages today. Kind of came through one of my guides now in spirit, which is my mom, and she showed me something that I have, an old clock in here, and I was looking at it from different angles. It was something that I inherited when she passed away. So let's talk a little bit about this this clock and what's interesting about it, and kind of like how this is going to connect to you over the course of the next month here. So let me just pull open my presentation here because I rebooted my computer. So a couple of interesting things as I was researching the clock. Again, the passage of time is very much sort of like this human desire to create, like make sense out of something that really doesn't exist. It's the observation of change. So we see the sun and it moves across the sky, so we call that time. But that passage of time, it will be different based on which planet you're on. Like a day is different on Mercury versus a day here on Earth versus Pluto. So basically the distance from the sun, the rotation of the planet, the gravity of the sun, all of these things actually affect the passage of time. So You're not going to experience a day here like you will anywhere else in this universe, much less this solar system. So once we start to think about how arbitrary it is and how these 24-hour intervals that we call a day, they really don't make sense outside of this planet. That kind of frees you from deadlines. There's so much focus on do this and do that and get it done by this date, and then our birthdays, and we freak out over that. It's just a measurement of time on this planet, but look at your life in more looser terms. That's something that I'm trying to get more comfortable with the older that I get. It doesn't matter, folks. That's one thing that's kind of important. All right, so this is the deck that I'll be using, and I grabbed one that looks like it, but there's a different one over there. So this is called the Steampunk deck, and we'll be reading with it today because it has a bunch of gears, and it's this sort of like retro-futuristic deck, basically. All right, so in dreams, I saw a clock, and it's an old-fashioned sort of German clock, and it was hanging upside down. And initially, I was just looking at the face of the clock, and I thought it's moving in the wrong direction. And then I thought, no, I'm actually looking at it upside down. So it's the hanged man. It would sort of, the clock was the hanged man, but also like I would have to be the hanged man to see it properly. Therefore, this card was coming through from the metaphor of that. So the first message that I got is you could be looking at a delay or the general timeline in the wrong sort of perspective or in the wrong direction. If you allow yourself to entertain a different trajectory, a different option, or just look at maybe a delay as a blessing, which is ultimately what the hanged man represents, then, this is a really cool moment for you. This represents a turning point where maybe you are going to give yourself permission to explore a different path, something that your parents don't understand, your boss doesn't understand, your friends don't understand, but you do. And so trust in that vision. You'll notice that this is a nicely illustrated one where you can see the halo or the nimbus around his head. It's the stained glass in this particular illustration. So through the pause, through the delay, comes insight or an epiphany or an idea. So see the time, if it's a delay or if it's a lull or a plateau in progress, see that actually as some sort of a blessing for you. Release the attachment to a specific thing getting done on a specific time, and focus more on, again, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, so this is I would say it's almost an amplified version of what I talked about to Leo, but it's about quality. The quality is so much better than the quantity, or in this case, the delivery date, okay? So you're exactly where you need to be. The only thing that you need to look at right now is how you feel about progress made. Are you also perceptive in looking at opportunities that are opening up, or are you too focused on the bottom line, the fine print, all these little details that might be miring you down and taking you away from the big picture? Okay, so that's part one of the clock hanging upside down and moving in reverse. I'm an English major and journalism major, English minor, and then I went to film school. So obviously I like telling stories and I like exploring literature and things like that. So The Great Gatsby has a really cool ending paragraph and couple of lines, oftentimes cited as one of like the best closing paragraphs. Let's look at the bold print here. I can kind of go through the whole thing, but so we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. The main character of this story lives through the lens of nostalgia. He didn't get to marry the woman of his dreams because he was poor, he wasn't rich enough, he wasn't famous enough, someone else came in. So he rebuilds his life and he wants to go back and change time almost and relive and recreate it and have her fall in love for him again, even though she's married. And even though he's kind of achieved this through very questionable means. He's building a house of cards, basically, and he's trying to go back into the past. So if I think about the clock upside down, a big part of it is this. And it's a beautiful, poetic sort of line, and it's a very interesting movie. But you can't go and race backwards in time, and that's basically what this line is saying. So it's the Six of Swords here, and it is sort of about releasing the past. And a key piece of Gatsby is this green light across the stretch of water, and it represents many things. It could be money, it could be spirit or death, or whatever. But what it also is saying is it's time to go. It's time to move on. And I think that releasing the past is something that's coming through for many of us right now. It could be something in work that didn't work out the way that you wanted to. Maybe you're stuck in a place, or you went back to a place that you used to work and you're like, maybe now they'll see me differently. A relationship, this happens to you. Come back and you're like, well, let's see if we've both changed. If you don't feel the degree of change that you're looking for, or if you start to see the red flags again, then it might be time to move on. So this is really about also helping you see what is available to you. Growth. There's growth and abundance and opportunity opening up in different directions. Why go back and try to Great Gatsby a moment? It didn't work in the novel. It usually doesn't work in real life. And so this is a chance to instead explore and create new connections, more meaningful ones. You might have to revisit the past. You might have to release some sort of a connection to someone. And sometimes seeing them again or trying something again, you're like, yeah, this isn't it. And that's okay. But trying to force a connection or fix something that maybe intentionally broke so that you could see something else, this is just a wake-up call for some of us. Now, grieving and movement, it takes time for each of us, and so never want to rush anybody through any phase of their life, but it is an interesting metaphor that came through, and I was definitely reminded of that final paragraph, which I love. It's one of the best in literature, but yeah, the story itself, there's some sad pieces to it, and that's one of them. All right, so this is fun. Time is relative. And so Einstein and his theory of relativity basically is saying that time is relative, basically depending on your frame of reference. But I can give you some examples here. So if we're going to talk about like physics and space, if you approach a black hole, like the event horizon, before you reach it, time slows down almost to a halt for you. But it continues to move quickly for other people. So if you were then to somehow magically be able to come back from that event horizon, much like the movie Interstellar, other people would be older, but you would be aged at a different rate. So that's an example of your experience of time is going to be different from others because of things like gravity, which it bends time and it bends space, and it's bizarre, and I don't pretend to understand all of it, but that's an interesting thing. The speed with which you travel also affects your perception of time. So if we could do FTL, faster than light speed, you could argue that the people here you could come back and like there would be a generation that had passed and you would be maybe the same age. So speed and gravity change perception of time. Now we can boil this down into everyday things that we understand. So the gravity of a situation, this is why, big events in your life, weddings, funerals, graduations, deaths, they have this big gravitational pull on you because everything was going in a certain way, and then bingo, there's something big that happens and it takes a period of adjustment. And then suddenly time may speed up or slow down, or you start to remember time based on that point. I remember when my parents were still alive, they were surprised at how far back I could trace events, but a lot of times they were pivotal on moves. I remembered 2 or 3 moves, and I could kind of remember all the way back to my first home. I drew a map for my mom, and she's like, "Oh my God, you actually remember the layout?" I said, "Yeah, I remember." But we were 2 when I moved, but I could remember the layout. The move is what triggered the memory, though. And then I remembered the new space very well. I remember sitting on the, this was maybe more when I was 4 or 5, but I remember sitting on the patio and looking at the moving van and talking to my dad, and he was explaining this was our new home and stuff like that. So sometimes a pivotal movement, moving in, moving out, moving on, and a graduation or marriage or something like that, it just kind of like cements the moment. When we're little kids, speaking of youth, because we so much want to be an adult sometimes. It feels like every year is just dragging until you have this, freedom or illusion of freedom of, when you reach 18 or 21 or whatever the age is that you're seeking. But the truth of the matter is time has always moved at the same speed, but the perception has changed, and the events around it have changed your perception of it. So the precious and finite nature of time encourages all of you right now to focus on this moment. It's the only moment that matters. It's the one in which you can actually change the trajectory of the future. It's the one that you're living. It's the one where you can express appreciation and make a difference in the lives of the people around you. Once the moment has passed, it's past. then you can learn from it and change your actions in the future. But this moment, and now this moment, and then the next one, this is the most important one. So don't live in regret, don't live in nostalgia, live in the now. And that's really what's coming through with all of this. So of course I featured death here because we see what's going on here. There is someone remembering, honoring the past, but death is also saying, don't lose track of what's around you. In the story of Christmas Carol, which I was talking a lot about, it's the ghost of Christmas future that I always like, because it is the angel of death. And it's basically, but it gives him a choice. It's not cemented. So what I love about death is it's actually not absolute. It's saying, I'm here to help you change. What do you want? How do you want to mold or shift or transform? So it's a misnomer. It's definitely transformation. And that's what this moment gives you a chance to do. You release the past, because we have a couple of release cards here, Six of Swords and Death. And then you embrace and change something about the future. Okay? So creating momentum is what all of this is about. You're not just a cog in that watch gear that I saw. Big changes are afoot. We're in the beginning of a new year. The World card makes sense. This is something big, something new. If you've outgrown a job, a relationship, an activity, a way of thinking, a way of living, something that you're sort of like doing in your life right now, then movement is inevitable. Just like the hands of the clock, it keeps moving forward. So don't wait to be moved. Create the momentum yourself, move yourself. So sometimes we're out there seeking inspiration or guidance. This is really saying, go within, okay? And I like the heart on this one as well. So we can see, you really have to listen to, are you happy in this moment as well? So winding and unwinding, of course, something that nowadays, we have like a digital little, whatever you call this, wind or gear on this, but it doesn't do anything. It basically just helps you get the menus. But once upon a time, you had to wind a clock. So the winding up, some of you are winding up to begin something. Some of you might be so tightly wound, you could actually overwind a clock. I remember that, like an alarm clock. When I was little, I broke it because I thought you just kept winding. You can overwind, you can, and then sometimes things can wind down, and it's sort of like looking at the momentum. Do you need to rest, Four of Swords? Do you need to gear up for something? Or do you just need to tune into your heart space here a little bit, Three of Swords, and think, am I happy? Or am I just doing this for others? Okay? So beautiful metaphors coming through from the analog clock. They are, I usually have always one or two in my house because they're beautiful. They're easy to read from a distance. I prefer the digital on my wrist, but definitely there's something cool about having a timepiece. Even if it's ironic and it's reminding you that time is relative as we talked about earlier. So quick review. This is a turning point for you, Virgo. Basically, this is giving you a chance to look at something differently. If you are feeling like you are stuck, this is really just saying, look in a different direction, okay? Living in the past isn't really possible. In fact, it might actually be counterproductive. Learn from the past. Don't try to relive it. Don't try to recreate it. Instead, move forward and focus on the here, the now, and what's available to you and what you learned to look at from the Hanged Man energy that we saw a moment ago. Change your path based on your experiences. Create your own momentum, and then decide, is it time to gear up or to relax a little bit, focusing on the heart space, something that we too often overlook, okay? So let me go ahead and grab the appropriate deck, and then we're gonna get started, folks. If you just joined, please like and subscribe, and good to have you here, by the way. Okay, so yes, we can even see all the clock gears on this one. Today I was like, we just have to use this. I recently brought this one out of retirement, and I thought this one is perfectly attuned to the messages that were coming through for today. So, okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody, good to see you. Again, you can use this for Sun, Rising Moon, and for Venus. You can also use it for any other aspect of the chart that you happen to know. There we go with the Three of Swords. Get out of town. We got 2 frogs. Definitely some synchronicity there. I just changed up all my sort of expanded cards here, so I don't think that's happened to me before. So you have an honorary totem here with the frog coming through twice in a row. All right. Let's begin. Okay, we're going to start off with one of 2 frogs. What I'm going to focus on this one is the element also of rain. So one thing that I love I've covered the frog before in totems, is its ability to thrive in places that others would not. So wet or swampy, or kind of murky waters, the frog is fine. And it has this ability. Also, it goes through metamorphosis. So it starts in the water, it has a tadpole phase, and then it becomes the frog that we love and know. So there's a change that's underway. Some of you may be in that feeling like under the water phase, almost like moon type energy. And the emotional or nostalgic sort of energy that I was picking up with the clock could apply to you. You're moving through something. It could be excitement, could be fear, could be sadness, but you have to address the emotion before you can become sort of like the frog. The frog in sort of not mythology, but fairy tales also represents something more beautiful than it appears to be. So I did a weekend collective about the diamond in the rough, and this is nicely connected to that. So sometimes what appears to be a frog could be a prince. So there could be this beautiful surprise in your life. It's about going beyond the sort of, going beneath the surface, basically, and seeing what's within. And also leaping into something new. So the frog is connected to a lot of different things. I would also say the fool, because it takes a leap of faith. And it can go pretty darn far. I can't, since I don't have all my data in front of me, several times its body length, it can kind of leap. I think it's the equivalent of, if I'm correct, because I've used frogs a few times, I think sometimes it would be like a human being able to leap the distance of a football stadium, an American football stadium, I should say. So it's pretty far. So just imagine in this moment in time, you can make a lot of movement, a lot of traction, and it's really just about that initial push. That's always the hard thing. I like to relate it to getting up in the morning. I'm sure we've all been there. It's especially harder in the winter when it's cold and your bed is warm. You're like, I really don't want to put my feet on the cold floor and get up. But somehow we make it happen because you know there's a nice day waiting for you. So it's that initial first step that is going to be the toughest, but it's worth it. All right, let's take a look at the center card. Nicely aligned with what I was talking about in the final message, which was saying, we were talking about winding up or winding down. And the heart is the thing to tune into. That's what I was going to mention in that card. And so if you slow down long enough to listen, you can save yourself heartache and you can decide, do I belong here? Should I be here? Does this make sense? And that's really what this Three of Swords is representing to me, more than like disappointment. It's saying, I need to listen to this. And remember that sometimes the heart knows best. It doesn't always make sense here or on paper or to others, but if you feel it and you believe it and you're ready for it, then it's a good thing. The card is reversed, so if we're going to get a Three of Swords, I like it reversed. It's saying something happened and it triggered me. Maybe I'm unhappy, maybe I'm frustrated, whatever it is. At least I know where I stand, and now I can focus on recovery. After this comes rest, the Four of Swords. So I mentioned unwinding. That can be as simple, like tomorrow I'm taking half an hour to get a small adjustment in my knee because I feel a little pain in it. And so I was like, all right, that's all I could find. But 30 minutes, all right, I'll carve that out for myself. You don't need to take hours or days. You can just 15, 20, 30 minutes, do something for yourself. Be kind, rest, repair, restore, and that's going to go a long way. On this card, crossing this card, I should say, we have the Five of Swords. So for many of you, the Three of Swords is connected to a person, and it's someone who just isn't willing or ready to listen. The Five of Swords is someone who enjoys sometimes getting a rise out of you, oftentimes isn't receptive to constructive criticism. Sometimes they're just immature. However you slice it or dice it, this person is not ready. And they're probably not deserving of your energy. So what you want to think about, like, we can't always avoid it. Sometimes that person's in our family and you have to figure out how to navigate it. Sometimes we're assigned to them in a project at school or at work. If you have a voluntary connection though with someone, this is a time to disconnect. Think about what's next in the suit. It would be the Six of Swords. So you learn from this, sometimes it's better to move on. And when I had the Gatsby quote, the one that was after it was the Six of Swords. So for some of you, there's been someone in your life that's caused a little bit of heartache or a little bit of upset. You try to make it better, but it doesn't work. And so the next card, even though it's not here, I featured it, was Six of Swords, but its sister card, Death, came through too. And this was in Opportunities. So you have an opportunity to move on. And I would say the opportunity is not to waste time sort of spinning your wheels in the mud, trying to make a difference with someone who just doesn't want to listen. Hopefully that makes sense. For the rest of you, the Five of Swords can also indicate the voice in your head that nothing's never good enough, because this can also be like a parent or a boss or someone in your life where you keep trying to do something and they always nitpick on something and they can't start with a positive. Sometimes that voice is in our head. It's like the Taylor Swift song, Antihero. So sometimes it's our own voice and we just want to sort of acknowledge that it is good enough. Sometimes if you've done everything that you can, it's more than enough. So give yourself credit where credit's due. Tune out the voices, whether it's internal or external, that are constantly kind of cutting away at your self-worth, and focus on movement. All right, the deep past is what we're basically trying to coax out here, which is the King of Wands. Boldness, strength, the ability to really believe in yourself. And there's a posturing that even comes with, in my mind, when I think of the King or the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands is kind of like, the other night there was a Golden Globes. It's kind of like people walking on the carpet. They pose a little bit. They have this sort of energy. When I think of King and Queen of Wands, they're very regal to me. They're very aware of their body and their presentation of their what they're doing. So pay attention to how you're projecting. Your voice, your words, your physical posturing, all of these things are important. And guess what? You've got it. You just have to come out from behind that chair and sort of step forward and kind of preen a little bit. It's okay. People want to see this confidence in you. The cards already show me that you have it, but you've just not been encouraged perhaps, or it's been a while. It's been a minute. But that's going to change because we have King of Wands, the Star, and the Ten of Wands. This is good stuff, folks. So there's something here. The universe is throwing a little fly in the ointment, or here a sword in the cog of this machine, trying to get you upset. But meanwhile, everything around this is good. Even everything over here, including the Death card, it's all good. So the only challenge is right here, right now, the heart of the matter, heart of the situation, something that just happened. This is trying to distract you from this. And it's time to move in a different direction, okay? So with this, before we move on to the Star card, this is about expressing yourself, being yourself, and it is a card of power and leadership. So if you want to do something, like this is a year to launch a project, to start your own business, to really stand up for yourself, the King of Wands is the ultimate in this suit. Second only to the Emperor card in Tarot as being a good leader. So I like that. So you have what it takes based on the cards. We look at the recent past, and because we're looking at this a little bit ahead of time, this is about to happen if you're watching it live in January, but if you're watching it in February, it's happening. So we have the Star card, and this is basically the spotlight shining on you. And it's also an encouragement for you to be your authentic and best version of yourself. The Star card typically it doesn't have any clothes because it's just, stars don't need that. It's basically just this bright, transparent, clear energy. And so for you, there's no need for facades. There's no need to worry about muting, changing, or dimming your message, light, or purpose. in order to please or, make people happy, basically. The big question is, are you happy? And is this right for you? This is your moment. This is a good month. And remember what I talked about with the Gatsby quote. Don't try to relive the past. Don't try to change people's minds around you. This is really, the star moves in its own direction. And I really feel like you should find another star or another person that sees you for you, rather than trying to change for people with limited perspectives, or what we saw here at the center, which is this difficulty in communicating. Honestly, this is someone who just doesn't have good listening skills. Five of Swords is probably one of the worst listeners in all of tarot. All right, let me take a quick drink, and we'll talk about the crowning card, which I love. Okay, so in the crowning position, we have 10 of Wands energy. 10 of Wands is progression, moving on, graduation. It's about really stepping into your power. So let's look at the traditional one, and I like the sort of like contrast that we see in this one. The only thing that's kind of curious, I always like to see how the artists handle the 10 of Wands. Excuse me, when you're closest to a journey's end, there's often this feeling of fatigue that sets in. It begins in the 9 of Wands. We see the person with the bandage on their forehead, and it culminates in the 10 of Wands, where it's like, let me just get through to the final finish line. If you've ever watched a 10K or a marathon, and you keep an eye on the person at the very end, you'll notice that sometimes their body has like spasms, muscle spasms, or they're kind of doing weird things and just pushing. It's almost like, taking every ounce of their body to get there. So for some of you, it's that final push. Like, thankfully, we're not seeing all of that here. It's just sort of like, to quote the children in the back of the car, Mom and Dad, are we there yet? How much longer? You're really close. That's what the 10 of Wands is showing you. And there also might be a way to get there a little bit faster. We see this person also working in the twilight or dawn hours. So for some of you, there's an encouragement to kind of shift. Okay, so this is interesting. And this is one of the many myriad reasons that I don't work in a corporate environment. But sometimes, I find inspiration. I'm better earlier in the morning, sometimes in the middle of the night. But I remember the middle of the day, not so much. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, I could just take a break then. And I need to do other things. It's better for me to walk the dog and get out. But I hit this lull in the middle of the day. And especially I remember right after lunch, 2 o'clock, when I used to be in an office, I'd just be thinking, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? I need a break. I've been here all morning. I'm tired. And the truth of the matter is a lot of people work on different clocks. So for you to get something done, maybe there's an opportunity for you to adjust your productivity. When are you most productive, and time shift it there? As we start to kind of exit out of some of the COVID, there was some blessings where you could work from home or kind of adjust your schedule. You start to hear and read things where people are, requiring people to be in the office so many hours again. It's an illusion, and I'm speaking from experience, that being in an office creates productivity for certain work types. There are some places, if you're working in a restaurant, yes, you've got to be there because you're cooking and creating the food. But there are certain types of work, particularly if you're a creative writer, an artist, an illustrator, maybe even certain types of engineering, until you have to test the products out, where idea and work it can happen anywhere. So I remember a lot of times we would just, the amount of wasted time in offices is crazy. In meetings, in just taking long lunch breaks, or phone calls, or people constantly stopping by your desk and distracting you. Being in an office does not equate to productivity, nor does working from home equate to laziness. There's a happy medium in between. So find your happy medium, change up the environment if you need to, change up the times if you're allowed to. Otherwise, just push through. You're very close. And if you can't control all of that, get through this and then decide what's next. The 10 of Wands, sometimes you're putting so much focus in the completion of the task at hand that you're forgetting that after this comes a reset. You either go back to the ace or you're going to go to the page. And it's sort of like, now what? What do you want? Someone might ask, what do you want? Or the universe is asking you, what do you want? So think of your plan B, C, D. Think of the long-term goal. Where are you headed in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? And this is going to help inform your decisions so you're not just kind of ricocheting around, okay? So it is about the long game, the long goal, and again, thinking beyond the burden of the moment. Okay, we have the Knight of Cups in the near future in reverse. And this is saying, take care of yourself. I mean, this is a common theme that I've been seeing time and again throughout the past few months. But whenever I get a court card in the Suit of Cups and it's reversed, depending on which one it is, it usually is showing, like you need to take a minute. So the Knight, I always love Knights because they can quickly recover. King or Queen, when they're reversed, they take a little bit longer. But Knights are nimble. And typically, I like to think of a Knight reversal as just sort of saying, oh, I need to sort this out, or I forgot about this. They grab it, and then they can get back to the task at hand. And that moment of pause could be a day, a week, a month, but it's usually pretty fast. So take a moment and fix something that's making you unhappy. It could just be getting under your skin. There could be something that you look at all the time and you're like, if I don't fix this about my life or in my environment, I can't concentrate. So it can be that. It can be an emotional thing where there's something in a relationship, either a work or a love relationship, and you're like, if we don't sort this out, how are we going to be able to trust each other and go to the next level? So take a step back and deal with the agitation or the thing that's making you discontent, because that is at the heart of things. If the other person isn't receptive, then, to quote the Fleetwood Mac song, go your own way, move in another direction. But there's a chance to figure things out, and this is the time to do it. It's always worth slowing down to prioritize health and happiness. The Three of Swords can also be some sort of it can be sort of like not just physical, but mental or emotional unhappiness. So you definitely want to allow for the healing to happen there. Okay? That's the main thing with this. There could also be love coming in from an unexpected direction, source, or again, someone that surprises you. You're like, I didn't see that one coming. And that's okay. You just have to decide if that works for you. Even if it's a surprise, it could be a happy surprise. Let's see how you're showing up. We have the beautiful energy of the sun here for you. Wonderfully powerful, nicely connected to the star. They're both stars. We just call one of them the sun. Let's talk about this and how it relates to you, and then I'll kind of connect what might be a cosmically aligned relationship here. But the Sun card with you represents a period of birthing, rebirthing, and creating, because it is the baby, it's the birthing card. In many decks, this one included, it's love. So if we look at this one, if we look at Morgan Greer, I think it might even be in the Sun and Moon. I would say maybe I have half a dozen different decks where you'll see lovers on the front of the Sun card instead of the baby. It works both ways. Basically, that energy of just being happy and being free is also a very attractive force. So whether you're looking for friendship or partnership, the sun brings it in. And it's everything that I talked about here when I was saying just be the best version of yourself. That's what attracts somebody to you, or something positive to you, because they can see that there's no veneer, there's no facade, it's just you. The Sun card also shows that you're on a new trajectory for perhaps the next year. We don't always have to wait for our solar returns or for a new year. It can hit at any point. So for some of you, it's hitting in February, or right now if you're watching this, and it's basically saying, all right, let's do this. Let's kick off something new. And this is something that could sustain you for the next year, which I like. All right. There could be a literal birth in your life, so a new child, or you might be aunt or uncle or something of that nature. But no matter how you look at the Sun card, it's generally pretty positive and pretty fun and enlightening and bright, and that's how you're showing up. I like it. And it's a nice echo of what, when I got the recent past, it's saying, all right, you're here. Are you ready to really own this? Because other people want to do that, want to celebrate the new you, okay? So let's do it, Virgo. Let's have some fun, okay? Let's take a look at what's going on in your environment. So here's what we're going to get ahead of ourselves a little bit, but I have to, because can you see the partnership cards? I can. So we have the King of Wands here, and we have the Empress. So a king and a queen. And now we have the star and the sun, two stars. So we have this beautiful connection that's coming through. So it could be, if you're partnered and happy and life is good, this could be a new best friend that's kind of on the horizon. For those of you that want to bring a little furry baby into your life, cat or dog or something of that nature, this could be that kind of energy. It could be a baby. It could be a lover as well. We're seeing someone or something that you love approaching you, coming into your life sooner than later. And what we see here is you are controlling the timeline, which is what I titled today's reading. I usually wait until it's done, but it was pretty clear to me, the clocks and gears and everything. So we see in the environment the Empress card and above her the clock, and she's got this sort of magical energy. We forget that the Empress has already moved through the stages of Magician and High Priestess. So yes, she can work her magic too. And so this is about manifesting. And this is really about understanding, like I said in the slide here, move, don't be moved. Inspire, don't wait for inspiration. Create. And these are cards of creation. And these are cards of people being attracted to that creative energy. And these are two very compatible people, okay? Or if it's a family, a beautiful extension of the family. A really strong energy if you're birthing someone or something. It has a lot of staying power. It has a lot of luminosity, okay? I like what I see so far. Yes, this moment in time, sorry if we go to the full view of it. This may not be so fun, whatever you're going through. Disappointment, maybe low morale at a workplace or in the family, something that's distracting you and agitating you, but look at your trajectory here, okay? Here's the sort of fly in the ointment and the necessary piece, and this is what could either, again, speed up or slow things down. So we have death as hopes, fears, and opportunities, or in that space, I should say, and she's basically saying, are you ready? You've got to be ready to make the movement, to make the change. Again, this isn't going to necessarily happen for you or to you or fall in your lap. You are an agent of transformation. You are the angel of death, basically saying, all right, let's move through this. Let's kind of, I reap what I sow. I'm ready to make this movement. But I have to let something go in the past, okay? And there's something that, for everyone, the healing moment's going to be different. It could be an actual loss. It could be a, a regret. Basically, I wish I had done that. It could have been a perceived mistreatment or wronging of something. And the main thing here, as she holds her sickle or scythe, is basically that she's going to be able to cut through that, cut past that, and say, I have to keep going forward. I have to keep moving. And that's really the momentum. I want to help you create momentum and movement so that you can experience the change that wants to present itself. All right. The outcome card is the Knight of Pentacles. So what I love about this is we also have another potential partnership coming through here. But when you slow down long enough to fix things, to fix the heart space, then you started to open up opportunities. You're more capable of going somewhere further, farther, faster with this Knight of Pentacles. Of all the Knights, though, the Knight of Pentacles usually represents slower movement. Knight of Swords is the fastest. Knight of Cups, it depends on how you feel. So what we're seeing here is you're grounding yourself long enough to basically get this under control. Then we see growth happening. It may not be as fast as the Knight of Swords, but it's very dependable. I like in my life, I want to see at least one of these Pentacles cards so that I know that I can count on something. So one of the things that you're learning here, Virgo, is that you can count on yourself and you can create things on your own. And rather than looking to others for inspiration, for the keys, for the power, etc., you may have to build something ground up, or you may have to be the initiator or the connector, because she's very much like a conductor, right? Not sort of like, but like the magician conductor, pulling the energy. And she still has that capability, because as you move up through the major arcana, each card that follows has the lessons and the powers of the previous one. So she just has to remember, oh, yes, that's right. I can pull this through me. We can make this happen. All right? Because sometimes an Empress wants it to happen for her. There's entitlement with the Empress. There's no room for entitlement. Most of your power cards are happening with the Knights, to be honest. So they're moving you in the right direction. They're moving you away from something. They're helping you tune in. You have a pretty powerful reading today. Okay. We are now moving into the expanded forecast. We're going to look at the areas of health, wealth, love, and destiny. That's the way I read. I like to just read what wants to come through first, then focus on the sort of tent poles that we all care about. As I go through this, a reminder, I'm not a replacement for a financial advisor, for a doctor, or for a therapist. What I am here to do is to show you energies and pathways and empower you to make the best decisions in your life. So work with an expert where you need them. And for now, let's take a look at the cards and see what they have to show for now. I don't think it's ever happened where I've gotten the same totem twice. I use different decks, and I don't check them out before. I just was drawn to these today. I was like, it's time to change it up. So your catalyst was the upright frog, the focus being on the emotions. The emotions came through in a really big way with 3 of Swords, 5 of Swords, and Knight of Cups reversed. Basically saying, I was unhappy. This person or situation has exacerbated it, and I need to do something to relieve that discomfort. And so this one was about moving through the emotion. This one, it says, clear out the clutter. The cool thing with the frog is it kind of doesn't matter which direction it is in. I'm holding it upside down, but as I look at it here on the camera, it looks like it's in the right direction. Kind of like a cat, a frog's going to land on its feet and it's going to be fine. It can take a little bit of a beating. So for you, clearing out the clutter definitely connects with the angel of death here. She's holding that scythe or that sickle, and she's basically going to go through and cut out the nonsense. For each of us, the clutter or the nonsense is going to constitute something different. One thing that's been beautiful, and I'm now almost 90% done with my unpacking, and I only have 2 little tiny boxes here, and it feels so good to not see the clutter. And what I'm doing as I unpack is really saying goodbye to some stuff from the past too. So I'm like, I don't need that anymore. And as I put things away, I really want to make sure that it's a part of my new journey. We don't need a move to do that though. So take a look at your life, take inventory. And that's really what the frog is saying. Take inventory. Look at your relationships. Look at your the actual things that are in your closet. When was the last time you wore that sweater in the back of your closet or your bureau? Take a look at your finances and look at certain expenditures. Are you paying for some sort of a service that you don't use? Can you cut that out and save more and do something with it? This is a time for inventory, and believe it or not, that's what the frog is showing me. And then you're going to be able to leapfrog in the right direction from that. Okay? Thank you, frog, for coming through twice and teaching us. All right. What I'd love to look at now is some additional messages around health. So this is the most important. It's at the heart of the spread. It is a heart. I featured it in my channeled messages, specifically this card. There were 2 cards that I thought of, and they both appeared here. So this is showing, and if we look at these 3, it tells a story. So this is where you're very much at right now. This is where you're headed, and this is what you need to do, because we're looking at this present presenting situation, near future, and opportunity. So this does tell a 3-card story. So whatever feels like it might be Chicken Little, end of the world, the sky is falling, it isn't. But it is necessary to not brush it aside. It's important. It triggered you for a reason. The person that you might be trying to get help for or talk to, help from, I should say, or talk to, it may not be the right person. Find someone who sees you and really understands the burden that you're carrying, because the 10 of Wands is a burden. It can be an emotional burden. And it was what I showed here. It's that feeling like the weight of the world is on your back. So you're feeling this, and you just need someone to understand that, some of you. For the rest of you, something has served its highest purpose already. And this is coming through and saying, are you done yet? And it is a very sort of patient/impatient death card. She's waiting, but she does have a little bit of attitude. And she's like, okay, are we done? Have you had your moment now? Let's move on, because we're not looking at this as a death of a person. We're looking at this as a death of a moment, a way of being, a title in your life, a job, an experience. And the angel is saying, there's so much more. I wish you could see what I see. And so don't limit yourself. This is something I've been kind of harping on this month. Definitely don't limit your potential. Let the universe show you the true capacity and opportunity that you have. Once we get through that, everything actually feels pretty good. It's mostly emotional this month. Some sort of a mental, emotional block. Now, the only other thing that I can kind of pick up on with this card is there, for those of you that have a history of blood pressure, heart attacks, any sort of coronary stuff, obviously work with your doctor, and standard disclaimer applies on this one. But you want to take care of yourself. So look at exercise, diet, and most importantly, because it affects everything, mental and emotional health, because that's sort of your foundational element. So if you're not happy, health follows suit soon after, okay? Otherwise, I like what I see, and I really love here, a change for the better. So we see something bold coming into your life. We see this new sense of power and empowerment, which is coming from the work you've done on yourself. We see a big change, and I see kind of leaning already into the next card here, but I see some changes in finances for you as well. There could be love coming into your life, so the sooner you can clear out the past, the sooner you can embrace this potential love or partnership. Okay, let's move on to wealth. I have a card that doesn't have words on it, which I like sometimes. So what we see is two things on this. Let's look at it in the upright position. There's really no reversal when I'm looking at this deck. One thing that I get is the sort of the energy of, it almost reminds me of an inchworm or a snail, which we talked about yesterday because I was looking at a conch shell, which is, it's hard to point and look. It's in this. So sometimes when we come out of our shell, there's that feeling of being very vulnerable. There's also, to me, as I'm looking at this, a feeling of I need help, I need a hand on this, because this person looks like they've almost fallen or they're just having a hard time sorting things out. So in this moment, don't be afraid to lean on the support of others in your life. It also reminds me of, oh gosh, what is the name of that Cyndi Lauper song where she's talking about don't cry, blah, 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 blah. It's basically, oh, True Colors. That's it. Because she's looking in a mirror in that video. If you ever, you should take a look at it, Google it. It's a good old song by Cyndi Lauper. So True Colors, there's this moment where she's kind of gazing into a mirror, looking at a reflection of herself. And it's really about accepting your true colors, which is really what this is about and what empowers this card here. So when you can celebrate all that is beautiful about you, others can accept it and reflect it back. If we look at the reflection and we don't like what we see, it doesn't help, and it's not going to allow others to, a lot of times they see the potential long before you. So really see your true colors in this moment, and that's going to open up so many opportunities when it comes to partnerships and money, and maybe a combination of the both. All right, so when we're looking at how to get to the Knight of Pentacles, and the fact that I think that's your only, it's your only resource card, it's about the people and the connections in your life. So we have, it's all about partnerships. All we got were partner cards. So we got 2 stars, we got a royal couple here, the king and the queen, and then we got 2 knights, pairs. Some of you may have no less than 3 people in your life, or 3 groups that are connecting to you and empowering this moment. You're not alone. All I got was pair, and a pair. It could just represent the same energy of one partnership. So the ability to, reflect and amplify each other's power, the ability to really vibe off of each other's ideas, and the ability to move it together, because that's what stars and royals and the knights would do. Okay, so that's really exciting. I have to say that's super exciting. And that's also the key. If you're looking for the next big thing, look no closer or no further than the people around you and the connections that you've made in the past. It's closer than you think, and it's happening faster than you think. All right, let's look at some other things here. When it comes to money and worth, if you're in a situation where you're not getting it, move on. Definitely move on. You don't have to stay there. Find your sort of like your landing pad. The frog needs something to land on. So find that lily pad that you're going to land on before you take the jump, but then leap and don't look back, basically. And this is also what the death card is saying. No regrets, no mistakes. Context, experiences, and informed action in the future. That's all death is asking of you and really wanting for you, okay? You should be happy in the thing that you do next. Are you happy with whatever it is that you do for a living, or whatever it is that you're investing your time in? For those that are retired, this could be the activities that you're involved in. For those that maybe are doing something philanthropic, are you happy with what's being done with your time, energy, or money? And for the rest of us that work, this is also just saying, do I get something out of this? And if not, it's time to change it up Angel of Death is coming through to change it up. But you have multiple opportunities and multiple people that can open up the pathways for you. So the most important thing for you to do is to clear some of the clutter in your thoughts, to clear some of the clutter around you and see what's left and move in a different direction if you need to, okay? The main message that comes through is change it up. Don't underestimate yourself. Lean on the partnerships. You can do this, okay? And we see a new job, new opportunity, or new opening in the horizon here. Let's focus on the next card here. We're going to look now at relationships. And I always connect the White Buffalo card to peace for the most part. The card came through reversed. And for some of you, this could also be this understanding that you hold the power, you hold the capacity to make something happen. You are that sort of white buffalo. So I see that as a power symbol. And if it's reversed, it's saying just, again, there's a reminder this month that you have what it takes. I don't know if historically you looked externally for people to solve, to fix, or to kind of inspire, but this month the universe is reminding you of your own capacity to kind of have all of the things that you're looking for. All right, let's look at this in 3 different perspectives. We're going to look at those of you that are in a loving relationship, those that are looking for love, and those that are happily single. If you're already involved with somebody, it looks pretty good, I have to say. I always like to look at it on 2 perspectives, so I really kind of break it down into 4s. But for those in a marriage, I like to look at healthy relationships and relationships that need work. So looking at the healthiest of all relationships, what I like about it is how evenly matched you are. Like I already talked about all of these things, the two stars, the 2 royal energies, and then the 2 knights. So there's a lot in common. Let's look at where the sort of tricky piece is. So we're showing that one of the 2 partners tends to lean into their emotions and make emotional decisions. You really need to trust the heart. And it feels like that partner that needs their heart to be in alignment, something's off right now. They're pausing. There could be a little bit of difficulty in communication. So that person needs the most support. It looks like you have what it takes to get through this. It's about one partner carrying a heavier burden for this short term, but you're evenly matched. You're both really strong and powerful in your unique ways, but this person needs some support. So it's really about helping the partner that's going through an emotional moment. And that happens. It's not always a 50-50 journey in relationships. A lot of times it's like 70-30. And you just have to kind of, hopefully though, that turns around so that it's like 60-40. And then sometimes you get that happy, perfect, balanced state. But right now I'm getting more of like a 70-30 moment where one partner needs to take a time out and focus on healing. And maybe you can help them see things that don't serve them and help them through this. It's really about transition and movement. There could be a death in the family. You might have recently had a birth. This is a very happy sort of connection. So this is a birthing energy. This is a big change. This can be a little baby that wakes you up and that doesn't listen to the fact that it's like 3 a.m. They're just unhappy. So this could be a colicky baby. This could be a new move where there was a little bit of stuff that needed to be dealt with. But once the dust settles, it feels good to me. It's just about getting through this moment, okay? Now let's focus on those of you that are in a more difficult relationship. So it's interesting that I mentioned how alike some of you were. So for those of you that are in a relationship but it's kind of falling apart, the problem is this is one of the bossiest cards and this is one of the bossiest cards. So literally he's the boss and she's the boss. So neither wants to give. Both of you have a really big personality. One of you may have a hard time when the other is like succeeding and you wonder, well, like, why, when is it my turn? When is it my moment? So I see 2 people that might be too similar and that's difficult and it's leading to a breakdown in communication. Sorry about that. For those of you where you're going through that, realize that it's going to be okay in this moment. And the main thing that you have to do is basically focus on remembering that, you know what, just because you're shining doesn't mean that I'm not shining. In fact, if anything, it's saying we have like attracts like. So if you are around someone who's bright, who's beautiful, who has that sort of luminosity, you do too. But if the 2 of you can't communicate, we do have this card here, which is representing a parting of ways, and it's going to be okay. This is you, this is you, this is you. So I'm looking at you being positioned in a powerful moment. If it's the right move to make, you're going to be okay, all right? Because what I see here is an impasse, And we have to have both parties being ready and able and open to moving in the right direction. And I'm not necessarily seeing it right now for everybody. So that's okay. If it's time to move on, it's time to move on. All right, for those of you that are looking for love, I think the most important thing to do is to focus on healing first. I would say it's premature until this happens. Are you unhappy at work? Are you just unhappy in general? Or is there someone around you that's taking a lot of your time and energy? Let's get that cleared first, because the relationship that wants to present itself is too important. This is past life for sure. The death card is, in and of itself, it can represent either death or the judgment card. It can show a past life connection. But the fact that I got stars and kings and queens and all of this, the two of you have had at least 3 lifetimes before, because I see it here. And this could even be like sibling energy too, 3 or 4 lifetimes. So the energy this lifetime is to have some fun. And it is remembering that both of you can be bold. All the stuff that I kind of mentioned for those in a relationship you want to think about with this upcoming relationship. Have some fun, let go of the competition, just be yourselves. That's the key thing here. Some of you may be a little indecisive, and there's a lot of options presenting themselves. So we have, a lot on this side actually. So it could be 3 or 4. So what I would say here is try to be more specific in your manifestation. Don't be afraid to be discerning. You don't have to say yes to everything. As you do that, it will help save some of your time and energy as well. Okay. For those of you that are single and happy, I think it's an optimal time to be that. So good for you. There's a lot of change that wants to happen. For everybody, not just single and happy, there's a chance to move. The 10 of Wands can be travel or movement. This can be movement, just like the World card can. So we can see a change in some sort of like job, location, or relationship status. The change is for the better because we have the Knight of Pentacles right on the heels of death. We have you driving this. So we have control energy, driving the ship of transformation, creating the Knight of Pentacles energy here. And we have empowerment as the fuel. So I really like this. I think this is going to be a great month for you. Lean into the change is what I would say. And focus on personal healing. Everybody under the sign of Virgo. Focus on personal healing first and foremost. And that's going to lead everything in the right direction. Okay. So we have in your destiny card, the dog. Little Apollo came back. He says, are you talking about me? So this represents for me friendship, loyalty, companionship, and also the reminder that you can indeed teach an old dog new tricks. So all of those things hold true for you. Where are you at with your core relationships? Who do you trust the most? Maybe putting a little bit more energy into that. One of the best things that happened with me being able to not be in an office was this resplendent creature entered into my life. I wouldn't have been able to have a dog if I was in a traditional job. And I get to spend a lot more time with Apollo because I get to control my schedule. And I'm so grateful for that. And that was the reason I wanted to have a dog at this point in my life. So some of you may be ready for either that kind of energy or this kind of energy, because the dog on this card can also connect to the baby. So maybe some of you are ready to start a family or to share something with the world. But whatever I see here, be proud of what you're doing and your path. I do see at least one really strong, loyal friend around you, and this is going to help you in the journey ahead. The Fool is not alone. The Fool travels with the companion, and it's basically that little dog. So it's coming through a few times on all of these cards here. Lots of dogs. And so this is basically listen to your instinct, look at who's truly loyal to you, and listen to the dog. In the Fool that we see on this, by the way, this is an excellent deck. If you're ever looking for like one of your first decks that you should get. I have multiple versions of this, probably like 5 times over, bigger, smaller, etc. But anyway, the little dog is trying to slow the Fool down long enough to say, take a look, let's not just jump over that hill. And so we got 2 frogs, which could also be like that dog, because they're trying to make sure that they can land on a firm landing. So in the past, if you were impulsive or were very much in the moment, this is saying slow down just long enough to evaluate your time, your effort, your ability, and where you're jumping into. You don't want to go from the frying pan into the fire, whatever that phrase is. You want to avoid that. All right, let's take a look at the big idea for today. Big idea is just what it sounds like, something that can help you focus, a nice takeaway from today's reading. Seven of Cups. Everything that I was just talking about for love, this one basically underlines. The universe is saying, it's asking, more importantly, what do you want? What are you trying to achieve? And we don't get asked that question as adults very much. When we're children, sometimes, unless our parents and teachers have decided our path for us, but sometimes people will say, what do you want to do when you grow up? Which college do you want to go to? What's your favorite topic? Are you dating anyone? They're always asking questions. When we're an adult, they just say, do this, or why isn't this happen? It's not as dreamy. So the one thing that this is reminding you is, I'm asking you, since people maybe have stopped doing that, what do you want to do next? And we never really grow up. There's an illusion, and we're setting children up for failure there. What you could say, what do you want to do when you're older? But we're always growing. You don't grow up until you transfer into the next dimension. This is when you're truly grown. It's when you die. So you're constantly in a state of growth and development and movement. And even after you move into spirit, you're still growing. We're growing eternally. So let's stop asking kids that question. What do you want to do next? What's your first goal? What do you want to do in 5 or 10 years? You could put something like that on it. So I'll ask you that. What's your next big goal? What's your planetary dream? What do you want to do as a sort of a legacy or thumbprint when you leave this planet? If you don't know, let that be your exercise this month. Don't use the word homework. Exercise. Let this be something that can inform and inspire you. And exercise is good for you too. So exercise your mind and your third eye and your dreams and think, what do I want? It's like going shopping. Does this sound good? Does that sound good? What makes your heart tick? Okay? That's all that we need to talk about on that one. Blessings and blocks. Again, like they sound. Things that are going to amplify or things that might distract. For the blessing, we have the 9 of Pentacles. It's reversed, but it's a fantastic card. For the block, we have the World, which I featured, I believe, in my channel messages. Okay, so let's break them down. For the blessing, 9 of Pentacles, let's just look at it in the upright position. This is one of the ultimate cards in the minor arcana that show self-sustaining energy. She's independent, fiercely so. She's worked really long and hard to get where she's at. Missing from this card is the snail, but you can still see that it took time for that garden to grow. And it basically is saying the long road and the long sort of win is the win that's worth going after. Don't worry about short-term gains. So your ability to see the benefit of something a decade from now is what's going to set you apart from other people. Not rushing to the finish line just because of that arbitrary deadline. Yet another reason that I don't work in a corporate environment. Because there were deadlines that as we started projects, we would do it. And I was like, we're just doing this because we said we were going to do it. Not because customers want it, not because it's right for the brand, not because it's right for the service, just because someone in a boardroom said we were going to do it and they don't want to look bad. So that's not the right reason to do something. The right reason is because it feels right and it's going to benefit the long-term health and well-being of things. So do it for the right reason, not an arbitrary line in the sand. Call people to reality too if they're just trying to do something because they said they were, not because they realize, oh, we've grown, we've learned, now we need to kind of like direct it here and do that instead. That's going to be, that ability to be agile and nimble and do that is going to be what's going to set you up for success in the long run. Okay, what is blocking you? Sometimes just the fact that you realize I need to move in a different direction. The world upside down is saying, this doesn't work. I need to try something completely different. It doesn't mean you have to throw everything out. It does mean though, like the Hanged Man reverse, it's just sort of like saying there has to be something bigger or better. Let's look at the card that or the slide that I presented here a little bit earlier. You're far more than a cog or a gear in a machine. You're steering your own boat of destiny here. You might have outgrown a job experience or some sort of activity, and expansion and movement is inevitable. So as I said earlier, don't wait to be moved. Be the one that moves. That's really what the world is saying. So we see the figure at the center of the world card, and she's saying, let's do this. It's almost like she's going to spin the wheel of fortune again and say, let's go, and I know exactly where it's going to land this time. So it's time. That's basically what I see. It's time, but there's an attachment to staying put for some reason for some of you. So look at the attachment. For those of you that feel like time has stopped or things have stopped, she's saying, then just give it another whine, give it another pass, because you'll be okay this time. It's basically about not giving up and not feeling like the best has happened, the best is yet to come. We have to have that belief, and that's what really fuels innovation. Otherwise, you just close the doors, lock up the key, and say, okay, I did everything I could, we're done. So no, there's more to happen. There's more expansion that wants to come through. So don't fear the expansion. It could require a move. Could require a move or a change in trajectory. Instead of doing the same old job or the same old relationship or being in the same neighborhood, you have to try it differently this time, whatever that's going to look like for you. Okay? All right, so we're going to move on next to the viewers and readers' choices. As I get ready for that, thank you for the Isha Marie. Yeah, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's free to hit the like button. I don't know why more people don't. Please do it. It helps with engagement. If you happen to be watching this on replay, do me a favor and put a little picture of a frog and tell me what it is that you want to leap into, what you want to change, what you want to move into in the new year. You can also put a picture of a clock or a cog or a wheel or something and say, this is how you're going to shift the focus. All right. That helps with engagement. That's why I do that. Plus, I like to see what you guys are doing. So it's a win-win. All right, we're going to look at the viewers and readers' choices now. Let me take a quick drink, and then I'll take a look at the most difficult card. Okay. So typically what I want to do, or I try to do as the reader, is pick the card that you fear the most. I'm going to go to death because most people look at that card and freak out. So I'm going to look at change and transformation. Let me pull up my keyboard here and give you a chance to vote on some other things, and then I'll read that reader's choice. All right, so let's get this poll started. I usually give at least 3 options here. So let's see, viewer's choice. And as I'm looking at some of these things, all right, so stepping into your star power. It's easier said than done. So sometimes it's like, what do you need to be bold about? What do you really need to show? Dealing with difficult people. So we're going to have difficult conversations. So navigating difficult conversations. That's basically the 5 of Swords. Oh, yeah, this is power and empowerment. So basically, you don't need to regain it because you have it, but it's sort of like how to express, show your power, I guess. Well, actually, that's star power, so we already have that one. So let's see if there's anything else. Oh, lightening the load here. So how to delegate / ask for help. Okay, so I feel like that's enough. Those are 3 really great options. So you guys can vote on those. You can, by the way, sometimes I get complaints saying, I didn't see the poll. If you're watching on a TV, it probably won't work. If you're watching on an iOS or Android device or a computer, it should be fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and focus on clarifying the death card. What is the moment of change or movement that is really presenting itself for you? Yeah, it's just about taking action, isn't it, folks? All right, so we have the Ace of Swords coming up, and the Ace of Swords is basically saying all that really needs to happen is an expression of desire, interest, discomfort, whatever it is, but it's saying use your voice. So once you decide to say, I want this, I don't want this, I leave, I stay, whatever it is that you want to do, then change comes in and says, all right, I'm here, we'll make this happen. Someone's waiting on your move. So in a game of chess, the other person's sitting there thinking, when are you going to make your move? And this is about making the move. It can be verbal or it can be an action. It can be both because the Ace of Swords is both. This is also saying the importance and the power of writing things down. So if you are having a difficult time sort of figuring out how do I do this, journal it out, sketch it out, draw it out, try a few different passes. because that's one of the ways that you can be the magician. You take one of the tools from the altar. So in this case, it's the sword or the pen, and it's saying, let's figure this out. And that's all you need to focus on right now is thoughts, actions, words that will create the change that you need. Okay, and people are listening and they are waiting. So if in the past it didn't work, it feels like it will work this time. All right, let's see what you've chosen for me. All right, so we have stepping into your star power with a clear win of about 71%. Okay, folks, let's take a look at how you can embrace not one, but 2 stars here that came through. Two of Wands, fantastic. Okay, the Two of Wands is reversed, but it's nonetheless a very, very positive card. Let's look at it in the upright position. We see the person's holding a globe. It's hard to see here, but typically you see them holding a globe or a crystal. This globe, because we're looking at a steampunk deck, of course, has gears on it and everything. But the Two of Wands boils down to planning and envisioning something. And then it says, I'm going to figure out how to bring this down to earth. And that's why the person in the Two of Wands is typically holding a globe. So when it comes to star power, you've got this. You're connected to source. That's why we keep getting all the stars. The question is, what is your course of action and how are you going to breathe some life into it? So we already got the Ace of Swords, which is saying, like, take some action. This person, you can even see it better in this card. They're looking at the lay of the land and they're saying, okay, I want to do this. Is this the right person? Is this the right place? Is this the right time? They're getting very tactical and very practical, and they're taking that vision and they're planting it. The next card would be Three of Wands, which means it happens quicker than you think. The most important thing, though, is having the vision and doing a little bit of strategy and homework. So the star card is bold and just wants to go out there. The Two of Wands empowers any card that it accompanies, especially Magician and High Priestess. But in this case, it's empowering the star and amplifying the star. So when we think about this, it's like if you have an amazingly poised and articulate public speaker that's already in a very powerful position. So maybe it's like a CEO or a president or some sort of a leader or a celebrity, and they get behind the mic and you don't want to stop listening because the way they talk, the way that they paint a picture, it's just easy. And the reason that they can do it is they practiced and they know exactly what they're trying to say. Versus, it can be very entertaining, watching someone that's just rambling. I'll give you an example of someone that I do love that rambles, but it's like Jennifer Coolidge. She's amazing. But she gets up to the mic and you don't know what's going to happen, and neither does she, and that's why it's fun. But if we're trying to get something done or accomplished, we do want clarity in the leadership. So there's probably a little room for both. But I'll try to think of somebody that's super articulate, but it's not coming to me right now. But there are people that are just really amazing public speakers, and they're nice to listen to. A lot of times, some of the authors that do books on tape or something, you just really love hearing it from their mouth because it's like, yeah, that's what it sounds so good. It's all measured out. It's beautiful. So comic relief is different from, I need to feel confident about this and I want to get behind you. So take the time to do the homework, take the time to believe in yourself. I'll give a better example. It's more like I can talk about a singer because it's the same sort of energy there. So if you listen to a singer-songwriter, maybe someone like Joni Mitchell, or let's see if there's a singer-songwriter today, like Taylor Swift, because she's a common example, but somebody that writes their own songs, produces their own music, and believes in what they're singing. There's something more entertaining about that than someone that sings someone else's songs or doesn't sing with emotion. You can also sing a cover, but you can tell that the person really feels the cover that they're singing, right? And it's like they've been through the pain or they've been through the joy of this. So it's in the delivery, and the delivery comes because of the experience or the vision. So get the vision down so your delivery is going to land where it needs to. Jennifer Coolidge, I didn't watch the awards, but I saw the speech. The reason it landed was because she went through some difficult times and people could relate to that. So there still was this feeling like, I'm just going to be real and I'm going to talk about my difficult path. She still had a feel for where she's going. She also plays a character. That's not the real her. If you look at her in some different interviews, you know that she puts on a facade of not being all there. It's a character. So even there is a premeditation even in that projection. So I use that example, but as I analyze it, I'm like, she still is playing a character when she goes on the red carpet. That's not really her. So you have to have that premeditation that there's a persona, that there's going to be something that you're going to talk about, and get people excited about it. So do the homework. That's how you step into it. Okay? All right, folks, let's get into sun, rising, moon, and see what the messages are for this. I mentioned earlier you can watch it for any part of your chart, but most readers, myself included, advise looking at sun, rising, and moon. I do this as a bonus for people that might be cross-watching and wanting to see rising and moon messages, and if you're looking for your sun sign, a little bit extra. So let's see what's going on for sun, rising, and moon. Sun, rising, wow, you got some great cards. And moon. This is a good month. I'm excited for you guys, I have to say, especially as we kind of break it down here. Every sign is different, but you've got really good energy coming through. Transformative, yes. Maybe a little bit of difficulty at the beginning, yes, but it's all worth it, folks. All right, let's begin with Virgo sun. We have 3 of Pentacles. For many of you, this is a moment of recognition. You've been waiting for it. It's worth it. It was worth the wait. So 3 of Pentacles can be others taking note of the work that's done, and we can see that nicely illustrated here. It also represents a wonderful period for teamwork. You can't do this alone. So the traditional card, you see an architect, and the people are either judging the work done or they're giving him some specs and saying, oh yeah, don't forget this. So it's a teamwork card as much as it is a recognition card. It's wonderful for those of you that are ready to publish, distribute, or disseminate something, because it shows me that people are really going to soak it in. They're kind of like, we just talked about good speakers and performers. They're hanging on every word. So take the time to plan those words out and to really think it through. One of the tough things about what I do here is that I have to go with the flow. But if you're going to do some sort of presentation, you get the chance to basically fine-tune and tweak everything. So definitely do that extra edit, do that extra rehearsal or practice. It's going to help you step into that moment and let the spotlight shine. It's a good month overall. If you happen to be a writer, we love the 3 of Pentacles coming through because, again, it is about, in many ways, the printed word or the written word. And so there's a chance to really take that and finish something that you're working on. But this also works for those in science and math because it's about putting things down. So putting them down in print or in writing. That also cements things because there is, when we look at quote unquote magic, which I think that the word takes away from the power of what magic really is, but thoughts, words, kind of like writing those words down and then acting on those. Those are the 4 different ways to breathe life into something. I think it and see it. I speak it. I have inscribed it, which is a way of creating a permanence to it. And now I'm going to act upon it. So when you write, you do one of those 4 more powerful things that magically help you manifest. So write it down. Write something positive about yourself in a journal. Say something positive about yourself. Or even if it's just to yourself, that's the power. You just have to say it and believe it. That quote unquote is magic. That's a spell. It's nothing but infusing power in your words and thoughts and actions. That's all it is. So if you believe it, then you're magical, then you're powerful, then things happen. Okay? All right, let's move from the sun to the rising. It's more about partnerships for rising. We have the 6 of Cups, which, by the way, is twin energy. Twinning across the board, Virgo, is what I see. Twins everywhere or partners everywhere. The 6 of Cups can be someone coming in from the past. Card is reversed, so it could be an unexpected yet happy reunion. It could also be past life partnership that's coming back into present, and it could be either like your recent past, like it's just childhood, or like I said, 2 or 3 lifetimes ago, or 2 or 3 lifetimes worth of incarnations, and it's coming back. There's a chance this time to just really have some fun. The 6 of Cups is sibling energy. Playful energy. If you're going to do something new, there may be like a spin-off. If you're having a baby, it could be a twin experience, not just a single sort of thing. So no matter how you look at this, it's kind of like It's double. We're looking at two things coming together, a couple bits of good news, someone coming in your life that's going to be there and support you in a good way. The Six of Cups in reverse can also say you want to heal something from the past, like a sibling rivalry, something from childhood. It tends to be a lot easier to work through than the Five of Pentacles. It's more just sort of like smoothing the wrinkles a bit. But I like it, and I would say the main thing to focus on, especially since rising and ascendant can deal with work, is growing the network. So making sure that you're going to every possible networking opportunity. You might actually meet love in one of those for those of you that are single and looking. Okay? But just good partnership opportunities across the board. All right, going from rising and moon, from rising to the moon, we're looking at the Ace of Cups in reverse. So this is also saying it's important to prioritize happiness, what you want, and also not taking on more than you need. Some of you may be kind of like a universal maternal energy, thinking like, I got to help everybody. I need to, I know how this person can do this and this. And you spend all your time and energy kind of focusing on others. And this is saying, just turn the lens within and make sure that you are happy. You are happy. I should say you are happy and you are grounded in this moment, rather than focusing on everyone else's satisfaction and everyone else's sort of like thoughts, desires, etc. There could also be unexpected love coming into your life. Some of you just have given up on it or aren't focusing on it. And because you are disconnected with it, suddenly something beautiful is coming in. And it's interesting that the Spirit spoke through me twice. It wanted me to repeat happiness, happiness. And I'm like, I just said it twice. Why did I say it twice? Because Spirit really wants you to be, in this moment in time, truly present, truly satisfied, truly happy. So I'm going to put this out more as a question to you that, again, is an exercise for you to think about each day. When you wake up, when you start something new, when you decide if you want to do something, think, does this add joy and contentment to my life, aka happiness? If it doesn't, why am I doing it? The ace is a potential, it's an opportunity. So with an ace reverse, we need to weigh these options and think, is it adding or subtracting satisfaction? If it's subtracting, maybe subtract it from your life so that you can have more joy. And that is the extended sun, rising, and moon messages. Okay. If you enjoy what you see here, please like and subscribe. We're almost through to the final portion, but we have one more piece to come. We're going to be taking a look at the final card here in just a couple of moments. And preceding that, we do a meditation and a sound bath. It all takes about 3 to 5 minutes, but it's worth it. And then that final question can be anything that you want. I only ask that you don't type it out, that you hold it in your mind or write it down, and then I'll pull a card on that. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is always a beautiful sign to read for. I actually have my my Venus in Virgo, so for me, it's a fun experience to read for you. And I could definitely feel the heart energy coming through as we read this today. Okay, let's take a look at the cards and see what we can focus on. I feel like it's transformation because we have this in the opportunity space. And then it's the star energy. So we're going to move through this and basically see a new dawn is what I want to kind of focus on, is like the rising sun. So if you would so kindly kind of just close your eyes for a moment, focus on your mind, your body, your spirit, and just ask yourself, how are you today? How are you feeling? Is there something that requires a release? If there is, as we take this deep breath, imagine that you are moments before the sun is about to rise. You're looking at the horizon. There's a dim line of light that you can see around you, that halo that happens right before or right after sunrise and sunset. And you see this tinge of beautiful kind of like pink light. It's barely even showing it's you can't see the sun yet, but there's a little bit of pink light and the stars are starting to fade. So as you take a deep breath, imagine that in that moment, it's when the first ray of light pops up over the horizon. And maybe it's hills or maybe it's the water, whatever you want to see. But that ray is going to trace through all of that environmental stuff and hit you in the heart. As you take this inhale, whatever needs to be released, the ray of light is going to pierce through it and remove it from your being. It's going to replace it with luminous golden light, which will then give you time and space to heal and refill your sort of happiness and your energy in your mind and your body and your spirit. Keep doing that and take as many breaths as you need to release the old and bring in something better. Thank you, universe, for that lesson. Don't need it anymore. I'm ready for something new. Imagine that behind you is a beautiful, resplendent angel or guide. And because the angel of death can be a little scary, it could be the angel of your choice, Archangel Michael or Gabriel or Raphael or Azrael. They all have the capacity to help us through a change. It's not just one. There are several angels that can move through a change with you. So for each of you, you may be calling in a different guide. And if you don't like to work with angels, just see someone in spirit or some deity or some sort of connection that maybe it's your higher self. See your higher self with wings and see it sort of wrapped around your body. And in this moment, the universe has your back. So you can just focus on the future and focus on what you want to see, the Two of Wands energy that we talked about. And keep replacing the old with this beautiful light until you are just filled up like the Ace of Cups and you're overflowing with light. All right, I'm going to play the singing bowl. We'll come back and look at the final card and we'll wrap up today's reading. Take a deep breath. Imagine now that the sun is fully overhead. You can feel its light and its radiance all around you, and you feel this renewed sense of power and empowerment. Take a few deep breaths, and on the next natural exhale, open your eyes and focus on the final question that you have for me. All right, let's take a look at the cards now and see what the universe has to say. This is a great card to end with today. We have the High Priestess coming through, reminding you of all the things that I talked about earlier, your ability to manifest, the fact that your thoughts absolutely shape your experiences and your environment around you, and also, most importantly, to trust your instincts in this period of time. As a yes, no, it's a yes, but it boils down to the question, do you see it and do you believe it? Because if you don't, the High Priestess isn't empowered then. She has to believe what she sees in order for this to work. So, this is kind of like a get real moment for you, right? And sometimes we discount our own intuition. Don't. It's solid. So in this moment what needs to be done, and trust in that, okay? And realize too that this is a moment, if you don't see it, to create it, to make the change happen. Because she nicely partners up with transformation, which was part of our meditation. She nicely partners up with the star and the sun. And she's a power card too, so she holds court very nicely with the king and the queen. So I like everything about that for you, and I think there's some exciting things to come for you as well. Okay, that was a very powerful reading. They've been pretty powerful this week across the board. So I feel, I mean, it's exciting because we're so close. I'm reading this right before the retrograde is done, but I definitely feel that this has been a good retrograde overall, and I feel the energy of it easing as we go through it. So, plus we're in a new year. I think when it happens like right over Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's into this sort of new year, it kind of just sets things in the right, it's a reset. So we got a nice reset. It all depends where the retrograde sits, but it was one for the better, I think, this time. Thank you everybody for showing up today. Again, I hope that if this was your first time here, you enjoyed it. I do different length videos. So if you just need like a quick pulse check on the day, I do a 1-minute video, and that's on my shorts tab. You can see all the previous live ones on the live tab. You can also go to the main channel page for all my playlists, and I pretty neatly organize monthly, weekly, daily, etc. And then I'll occasionally do like a half-hour video on a celestial event, like a new moon and full moon. I'm trying to do all, if I can this year, as many as possible new and full moons. And then equinox and solstices, I'm trying to add a few extra special readings because they are important moments and they tell us a lot about what we have available to us. Okay, I'd like to start by just welcoming the newest members, and then I'll say thank you to any super stickers or super chats that I got today. So Raven Tesh, thank you so much for being a brand new channel member. Yuri Gonzalez, thank you for rejoining after 1 year. I appreciate that 1 year of membership. Harriet Paps, thank you very much for rejoining after 2 months. And that was everybody from today. It was either during this live reading or before it, so thanks so much. Let's take a moment to say thanks to the super stickers and super chats, and then we'll move on to what I want to say next. All right, Esmeralda, thank you for being the first person today to contribute. I appreciate it. Terry Watkins, thank you. Lexi B, Elaine Walsh, and Dark Shadows. I hope you enjoyed today's reading. Like I said, I certainly did. Let me see if anybody celebrated a milestone. Sometimes I miss those on that main tab. No, they didn't. I want to say thanks to all the existing members. I see a lot of folks with green text in the chat. I appreciate your continued support. And then I know not everyone can give back. You know, if you're just watching the video, it's supporting me. So thank you for sticking around. And if you want to show some engagement or share on social media, that's just as important for the growth of the channel. So however you show your support, thank you. And just the fact that you're working on yourself today also, that's why I'm showing up on a planetary goal. So I'm happy that I was able to be of some assistance to you. All right. A reminder of my schedule, I'll be back again on Sunday for another live reading. I like to map out the whole week ahead. You can still watch last weekend's. I put timestamps on so you can take a look at the energy for today and tomorrow. And also the sort of like special topic is always a little bit timeless on those, so you can watch it whenever you need to. But for the most part, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you soon. Again, I'm live every Monday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. I do 1 card reads every day. And that's a lot, folks. That's enough, right? All right, take care of yourselves and have a great weekend and a great month ahead. Until I see you next time, much love and light. Bye-bye.